Today was the day that Kevin Nisbet was called up to the Scotland squad, and I'm delighted to be able to say that. Alright lads, welcome back to another video, and this one is going to be talking about this lovely Scotland squad that was announced today. Albeit that isn't all lovely, there is some wee nooks and crannies in there. It is overall a pretty decent squad though, and I do certainly like our attacking options now going forward. So as I said, this Scotland squad, let's go through it. Starting off with the goalkeepers, and they are Craig Gordon, obviously, Heart of Midlothian goalkeeper, played very well this season. David Marshall, the one and only legend of the qualifying campaign for the Euros, he has to be in there for the foreseeable future until he retires, essentially. And John McLaughlin, a player that was obviously playing well for Rangers at the start of the season, and then Alan McGregor's come back in and quite rightfully staked his place as Rangers' first team goalie because he is just a better keeper. This is one of the first ones that's been kind of debated a bit, whether Liam Kelly should have come in. Of course, he's been at Motherwell this season and done pretty well in his time there. A player that's been called up previously, Liam Kelly, and obviously has that experience of being in a Scotland squad, so that's mainly the reason why that one's been questioned, because John McLaughlin's not been playing as much. Liam Kelly coming in, you could have at least gotten an idea of how much he's improved since his last call-up, so I can understand why people are bringing that one into the equation. Certainly Liam Kelly, I think, is another one that's for the future, with guys like Craig Gordon and David Marshall being on the latter end of their career, especially Craig Gordon. You would think that Liam Kelly is going to be one that will be called up for years to come, because he's a very young goalkeeper, and with goalkeepers, they go until all ages. There's plenty of time for Liam Kelly. I personally would have liked to see him in this squad, but I don't think he will actually end up getting any proper game time. Now we move on to the defenders, where obviously there is big contention for players that get picked in these positions, because it's probably a position where we don't really have a hell of a lot of quality, except from at left back. So let's go through them. So we have Grant Hanley, Jack Hendry, Scott McKenna, Stephen O'Donnell, Liam Palmer, Declan Gallagher, Andy Considine, Greg Taylor, Kieran Tierney, and Andy Robertson, of course. Now, there's a lot of names there, a lot of names. Now, out of those, I think Steve Clarke is the type of manager to stay loyal to players, and that's probably going to play a massive part in his managerial stint with Scotland, however long that may last. I think the international game always ends up being a kind of loyalty-based type thing regardless, but I think Steve Clarke is a manager that really plays on that side of things in his management style, looks to players and thinks, right, I'm going to build the team around these sort of players in these positions. Declan Gallagher being there, a consistent pick, obviously bringing in new players such as Jack Hendry and continuing to pick a player like Grant Hanley. Grant Hanley's certainly a contentious one. I think a lot of people have been looking at that pick and going, well, surely there's got to be someone better out there, but maybe there just isn't at the moment. Jack Hendry's obviously been playing well over in Belgium for Oostende, I think the name of the club he plays for is. So he's got a deserving call-up, and I think he's just going to add to that defensive option where I believe Scott McTominay is now going to exit into the midfield area, which is potentially quite good for us because he's been playing well there for Manchester United, and that might see Jack Hendry end up coming into the lineup as a more ball-playing centre-half. That's the way I'm thinking about it anyway. Let me know your thoughts on that one below. Andy Considine, Scott McKenna. Andy Considine is going to be one that's just going to keep up the numbers, I suppose, and he was a cult hero of the last qualifying campaign, of course, with the Yes Sir I Can Boogie song and stuff, so I think that is just another one where we're clinging on to the kind of players that have gotten us to this position and being a better team overall. So it's more of a squad game with picks like these and the lack of options that we've got quality options at the back. And then the other area is full-backs, of course. Kieran Tierney, Andy Robertson is the left-backs. You cannot argue with that. Kieran Tierney could end up being an option for centre-half, of course, being a left-sided centre-half because he has played there for Arsenal. Andrew Robertson's always going to play left back in my opinion, and he is the captain, so I think you can understand that choice from Steve Clarke. And at right back, that really is the one that people have been having gripes with. There's been calls for Nathan Patterson to be called up, Sean Rooney, the list could go on and on. Stephen O'Donnell for me, not entirely great for Motherwell so far this season, and Liam Palmer, much of a muchness. I don't really think we've got a great plethora of options at right back. It's a real shame that we've got a lot of great left backs but not as many right backs. that's why people are calling for players like Nathan Patterson or Sean Rooney. Maybe not this time, certainly ones for the future, especially Nathan Patterson if he continues his run of form. So now into the midfield, and we have Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Christie, John Fleck, Ryan Jack, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean and Scott McKenna.
Wait, what?
And Scott McKenna.
Clearly, I meant Scott McTominay.
Now, overall that is a very decent plethora of options there. And we've always known in the past few years that we've got a really decent set of midfield options with players playing at the highest level, guys like John McGinn, Scott McTominay, Stuart Armstrong. That is a great plethora of options to have in the middle of the park, and it's certainly going to see you have a real quality of player in there and be able to keep possession in games and know that you've got trust in these players to deliver on the big occasion. It'll be interesting to see how Steve Clarke manages to try and fit all of these quality players into a sort of system that ends up working well for us. And then finally, the exciting part, the strikers. We have Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, Kevin Nisbet, Ryan Fraser, and unfortunately this is the one that has made many people go, why? Ollie McBurnie is still there. Now, out of all of those picks, I am delighted with Kevin Nisbet. Obviously, Che Adams is a brand new pick and it's very nice to see, but for me, obviously, following the kind of journey of Kevin Nisbet, having been at Dunfermline where I watched him for a full season, I'm just delighted for the guy. He showed so much quality in the year that he was with us and scored many goals for Wraith Rovers prior to that, and he's now gone on to do it for Hibs. I thought he'd maybe fluffed his lines a bit in January with the whole kind of Birmingham City palaver, but he's been called up for these qualifying games, and let's just see what he does. Obviously, Lawrence Shanklin isn't there, that is the notable omission from this squad, and players like Nisbet and Adams have been called up in his place. I want to see Nisbet do well at all levels he plays at, so I really hope he can come in, and if he's not going to get starting game time, at least come on, make an impact and maybe grab a wee goal like Shanklin did in the game time that he got. He scored a goal against one of the kind of lesser sides in a qualifying game, so I want to see that from Kevin Nisbet in these games. Hopefully he can be called up for the Euros. If not, it's not the end of the world. There's a long time for Kevin Nisbet to prove his worth in a Scotland jersey. But aside from that, you've got Lyndon Dykes, Che Adams and Ryan Fraser, and that is just three quality options. Che Adams is the new one, exciting player, played with Stuart Armstrong, so there's a little link there, and I can honestly just bet my bottom dollar that he'll be playing in these qualifiers, because there's no point in bringing the guy in if he's not going to play. A bit like Lyndon Dykes in the last games where he was brought in from sort of out of nowhere and he played every game. I think it could potentially be Che Adams and Lyndon Dykes up front. It's a shame for a player like Ryan Fraser, who gives us an option on the wing but is also clearly a player that can play as a secondary striker, and he offered a lot in the kind of games prior to qualifying for the Euros, so I hope he can have just as big an impact once again. And as I mentioned earlier, Ollie McBurnie's still there. I'm glad to see the omissions of players like Ollie Burke and, despite his good form this season, Callum Patterson, because I just don't think they're international quality players. So I'm glad to see those players omitted. I do think that the options we've got now are just better quality overall. Ollie McBurnie's still the questionable one there, but ultimately, Steve Clarke is a loyal manager. He potentially just likes to have an extra target man option, and Ollie McBurnie certainly offers that. He's never offered much in terms of goal return or assists in his Scotland career as of yet. Hopefully that can come, but I do think that the other striking options that we do have now are going to end up playing in front of him regardless. So overall, I think it's a pretty exciting Scotland squad. There it is, up on the left of me just now. Let me know what you think yet. Let me know your overall thoughts on the squad. Who are you glad to see? Who do you think should have been called up? The likes of David Turnbull, Ryan Gold. We spoke about Nathan Patterson, Sean Rooney earlier. Just let me know who you think should have been called up into the squad. And maybe we can get chatting about it in the comments. So that's it for this video, guys. Cheers for watching. If you did enjoy it, please give it a like. Comment down below, as I said, your thoughts on this squad. And subscribe for more of this type of content. And until the next video, which will be on Friday, I'll see you then. Cheers, guys.